As a matter of fact, in the space of 60 seconds, a consumer now can check out your business, can check out your reviews, can see what you're doing. Social media has added a magnifying glass to this, and yet businesses are still trying to control their narrative. You can't.
This is the Business Owners Smashing It Online podcast for entrepreneurs and business owners looking for cool online tools, apps and strategies to make business easy online. My name is Nick Cree and I'm your host. Each episode features a guest expert demystifying the online universe, sharing inspirational ideas and providing tested real-world strategies to help you get the most of what's available online to grow your business today. Don't be a slave to your business, get your business working for you. Subscribe now and get some great content and ideas for you and your business today. My pleasure now to introduce you our guest speaker for tonight. Some of you will know him, some of you won't. You'll be getting to know him in this next segment. So it's Dennis Hall. He is he's got an MBA and a CLF. I'm not sure what a CLF is. I'm just thinking that is a cheerful, lovable fellow. So of course, Dennis is definitely that, but he's also a local and micro business growth champion, author of that book that I just had up on screen as well. He's a speaker and presenter, but he's got a philosophy that I really love as well. And that's why work in a business that ties you down and stresses you out when you could just as easily work at something that you do love, that sets you free and enjoy your dream lifestyle. Of course, Dennis is living that at the moment. Sort of in a place that I used to live, well, not the exact house, but the location that I used to live in. So he has a business called AusBizLinks. And that there operates the Business and Jobs Expo in Southeast Queensland and now online. So I've participated in many of those. And what they are is they are one-day pop-up events to enable business owners to meet, connect, learn, network, gain expert advice, and discover profitable business ideas. Now he's got, I know it doesn't look like it, but he has got 30 years of management and leadership experience. So he's been working in businesses, both large and small, and has an MBA in marketing management. So he must know what he's talking about. So I'd like you to put your hands together and let's welcome to the stage Dennis Hall, who's going to talk to us about the 4 key factors local businesses need to know to 10x their marketing results. Dennis Hall, over to you.
Wow, what an introduction. I don't know how I follow that, maybe I should get you to do my presentation for me, Nick.
All right, it's time to wrap up the evening now. Dennis.
Yeah, away we go. Just bear with me a moment where while I just share my screen, and that way you'll be able to follow along and take notes. And incidentally, anybody that wants a copy of these slides, I'm happy to send them through. So just put your name and email address with a little note there, slides please, and definitely send those through to you. So, okay, we're going to be having a look at 4 key factors that everybody in business needs to know to be able to at least 10 times their marketing results. The thing is, we don't have time to go into a huge amount of detail, but I will be covering off on quite a few elements that are associated with these key factors to give people what's the word that I'm looking for? A more rounded approach. And for some reason, my slides aren't working. So let me just do that again so that we can freshen up the slides and make that happen. Don't you just love technology?
One of the joys about presenting online is sort of when the tech goes wrong.
Yeah, most definitely. Okay. It was working. Oh, here we go. There we go. Okay, so our next 45 minutes or so, we're going to be analyzing, exploring, and generally discussing these four key factors. One being your mindset in terms of the way that you approach your marketing. Another being your understanding what the purpose of your marketing really is. I think a lot of people have a bit of a warped view about what marketing should be doing for them, which is why they're often disappointed with the outcome. Understanding what your role in the marketing equation is, because you do have an important role to play, and it's probably not the role you think it is, or the role that people have been telling you it is, and why we should abandon using slogans to try to build relationships. We live in a very different age to the 60s and 70s, where slogans originated, and certainly the marketing environment and the digital environment especially has really turned that factor on its ear. Now, we don't have a lot of time, but if you do have questions as I'm going through, please put them in the chat, and time permitting, we'll get to the questions. But if you put the questions in the chat, what I will do, if we don't get time to cover off on them this evening, I will certainly send you a little note via email and give you a bit of a response to your question. So no question goes no question goes unanswered. So, okay, marketing means a lot of things to a lot of people, but for us as solopreneurs, local business operators, micro business operators, we really need to get very clear about what marketing's about and what it needs to be about for us, because marketing for local businesses and SMEs needs to be very different to the big end of town. You know, when you got a couple of $1 million to throw at a marketing campaign, you can really afford to let some of the old time paradigms slowly drip away for you. But in local business, you've really got to be more about guerrilla tactics. You've got to be able to hit and run, and get results as you're going along. Otherwise, you go broke really, really quickly. So let's explore this. You know, back in the good old days, pre-1995, pre-internet, marketing really was certainly for local businesses was mostly about yellow pages. You know, you put your ad in the yellow pages and it worked for the majority of businesses. You did letterbox drops and they worked for the majority of businesses. Local newspapers, local magazines, and local radio all worked really well depending on the nature of the business and what it was trying to achieve. But that world doesn't exist anymore. And yet I still see businesses factoring in these elements to their marketing mix when they don't have the budget to spread it that thinly. So the reality is the internet has changed not just the way marketing works, but has also changed the way your customers think. And that's certainly the case since COVID. COVID forced people to change their habits because we were forced to stay indoors. We were forced to not socialize. So how do you go shopping when you can't get out? You know, what do you do for relaxation and entertainment? You know, the internet has put the world in people's palms and made them realize that for years this resource was there, but they really weren't utilizing it to the extent that they could. So with this, control has shifted dramatically. It used to be that businesses controlled the information that their potential clients and customers had access to. They no longer do that. As a matter of fact, in the space of 60 seconds, A consumer now can check out your business, can check out your reviews, can see what you're doing. Social media has added a magnifying glass to this, and yet businesses are still trying to control their narrative. You can't. You've got to understand what the customer, what your potential customer is looking for. So bearing in mind the fact that we are in an environment now where the world has changed, we need to change with it. Because if you don't change with it, you are not going to be successful in your marketing. You are certainly not going to be able to 10 times your marketing results. So the factors that we're going to have a look at are your mindset. And we've got to start to shift from a tactical perspective to a strategic one. And I'll explain that a little bit more shortly. You need to understand the purpose of your marketing. And let me say now, and I'll probably repeat it until you get sick of me repeating it, marketing isn't about selling. Get that right out of your head. It's not about selling. If you can't control a relationship, how do you think you're going to influence somebody to buy from you? You can't, right? So marketing is about relationships. You got to build a relationship. So we're going to be talking about how we do that during this evening's presentation. And if you're going to build a relationship, you need to understand what your role is. So your role isn't to control anymore. Your role isn't to try and hide your potential customers from your competitors. Your role is to educate. Pure and simple. If you can educate, if you can show people what they aren't being shown by others, all of a sudden the dynamics of the relationship shift. And you go from being a provider to a trusted advisor. And that's what you want to be, because for as long as you're a provider, you are always going to be exposed to the let's buy it cheaper mentality. Don't forget, on the internet, your customers, the existing ones, and your potential customers are only ever one click away from your competitors. So because your potential customers and even your existing ones to an extent have got very little information against which to make educated choices, guess what they make their choices on? The lowest common denominator, price. You've got to be able to get them out of that mindset, and you don't get them out of that mindset by hammering them and trying to sell to them. More about that shortly. And as I mentioned before, you've got to drop the jargon, slogans, catchphrases. You know, these things are a turn-off. They're a turn-off because they have no substance. They're designed to catch attention. And in that respect, they can be useful, but they do not build trust. How many slogans do you hear from the big four banks? And every time you hear the slogan, you go, yeah, right. They destroy their own credibility by trying to use slogans to stay top of mind in the marketplace's brains. Yeah. That was the old way. You know, when you had 30 seconds on a TV commercial, which was the way the big boys used to influence the marketplace, you got 30 seconds on a commercial, you use slogans because it's a quick way of making inroads into the mind of your potential customers. But with the backup of the internet, they can check you out in a heartbeat. And if you don't live up to the jargon and the slogans, you're Gonski, right? So slogans and jargon, they need to be used at times, but they cannot be relied upon as the mainstay of your marketing message. And so many times I see local businesses trying to work the slogan hard when they're not going to be able to compete with the big boys. As a matter of fact, their biggest advantage is their lack of size. But they try to compete with the big boys on their turf. You're not going to win that battle. So moving from this tactical to strategic mindset, there is a difference between strategic and tactical marketing. Strategic marketing is all about the content of your message. It's what you say and how you say it, including concepts that you choose to focus on. This is what a strategic marketing approach is about. Tactical marketing is all about the execution of the message. It doesn't matter where you appear if you've not got your message right. So execution includes placing ads. It includes building a website. It includes your social media. It includes networking. These are the vehicles that you're going to use to get your message across, these vehicles and others. But make no mistake, tactical marketing is nowhere near as important as your strategic intent. What are you trying to achieve with this? Because that leads to the content of your message. And importantly, who are you trying to communicate with? So what you say in your marketing, how you say it, are almost always more important than the medium where you say it in. So get out of that tactical mindset, get into a strategic mindset. Both are important, but the real leverage is in your messaging. And that's the strategy. Now, purpose. Purpose is an absolutely huge thing. When I talk to businesses and say, what's the purpose of your marketing? Well, I want to make more sales. Right. Okay. Well, I can see where you've been going wrong, because marketing isn't about sales. Marketing is about building relationships. And in the 21st century, with the digital world we live in, we have never had it so good in terms of being able to build relationships, but we burn our market all the time. How many times, show of hands, or maybe just put a Y into the chat, how many times have you been to a networking event and within 10 seconds of meeting somebody, they're pitching you? They're trying to sell you something, or they're trying to make an appointment to come out and see you, or to have a cup of coffee with you, or, whatever, but you hardly know them. Yep. I know it happens to me a lot. The digital version is LinkedIn. Nick will smile with this one. We're both on LinkedIn. We're both active on LinkedIn. We've both got very targeted and purposeful LinkedIn profiles. But I would get probably 6 messages a day from people wanting to connect with me. And in my profile, I say, I don't refuse a connection request, and I don't. Everybody that asks to connect with me, I connect with them. But the moment they send me a message trying to get me to have an appointment with them, when I still don't know them, and more importantly, they don't know me, I block them, because that's not the sort of relationship I'm looking for. It's not the sort of relationship your customers are looking for. So the purpose of your marketing has to be in building relationships. And we've got the slides playing up again. Forgive me while I reconnect this. Yeah. I'll just stop sharing for a moment. And reshare. Sorry about that. I'm going to keep my PowerPoint on edit mode, because if it's crashed once, it's going to crash again. So the purpose of your marketing, can everybody see the screen okay? Yep, cool. Is first of all to identify who your tribe really are. Because believe it or not, your potential customers aren't anybody with $1 in their wallet. You know, your potential customers have got specific needs that you can help them with. So you need to know who those people are. Where do they live? What do they do? What are the challenges that they face? Because the other thing with the 21st century in the digital environment is mass marketing is dead. Mass marketing was television in the 70s, where everybody from 6 o'clock in the evening till 10 o'clock in the evening was watching the Gogglebox, because there was no other choice. Not the case anymore. Television and mass markets don't exist anymore. What exists now are masses of markets. So instead of one conglomerate market that you try and aim for, what you're trying to do now, what you should be trying to do now, is to identify your tribe so that you can niche down. Because you can't appeal to everybody, it's too goddamned expensive. So you need to appeal to those people that need you the most. That's your tribe. You've got to create awareness in that tribe. And that's where the strategic intent of your marketing, the messaging, becomes really important. Because you can't build a relationship, and that's the third purpose of your marketing, is to build relationships. You can't build relationships with people if you don't know what their hot buttons are, if you don't know what their problems are, if you don't know where you fit into their world. Because once you've got that information, you can support their decision making. And you know what? Sometimes that's going to mean you're going to recommend one of your competitors to them, because you can't be the only solution that can help them. You want to be the best solution. Who here has had customers that have driven them nuts? Again, in the chat, just put a Y for a yes. I know I've had lots of customers that have driven me crazy. And you know why they've driven me crazy? Because I'm not the best solution for them. I can offer them a solution, but I'm not the best solution. In the early 2000s, I started, I left the corporate world and started working in seminar delivery, workshops, and executive coaching. And for 15 years, I was a facilitator and executive coach for the Australian Institute of Management. I had quite a few clients that would come to me and say, we need you to help us with our marketing. But often I would take on a project and regret it because I wasn't the best solution for them. So I was trying my best to give them the solution they needed, but I wasn't hitting the mark. So I decided that I wasn't going to do that anymore. If I wasn't the perfect fit for them and they weren't a good fit for me, I'd recommend them to somebody else. Now, that seems a little bit crazy, but a funny thing happened. I started getting recommendations from clients that I'd said, I can't help you, but this guy can. I've never done business with them, but they recommended me to their colleagues because they trusted me, because I didn't try and do business with them. I was polite with it. I made sure they weren't hanging off the edge, and I would check in. I'd first of all check in with the person that I'd recommended them to see if everything was going okay. Because that built a relationship. It built a relationship of trust. And I got more recommendations from those people than I did from a lot of my clients. So marketing is really about, who am I trying to do business with? What are their needs? What are their hot buttons? And how can I help them? Because that's where you start making relationships. So your marketing introduces you to those people. Your communication from that point decides whether you are going to develop a relationship that will lead to business being conducted or not. So your role, and I've already covered on some of these aspects, you've got to know what's important to your tribe. You've got to educate them on making their best choices to achieve their best outcome. And if you can't prove that you are that choice, then you're not the best fit for them. And even though it's very tempting to take them on anyway, don't do it. Don't do it. Or if you do it, at least tell them that you're not the best choice. Look, I don't think I'm your best choice for this particular instance. I can recommend you to some people. It's surprising how many people will turn around and say, oh, no, look, I think we could work well together. It's funny how people's psyche changes when you're trying to push them away. All of a sudden they start thinking, well, what's wrong with me? Why doesn't he want to do business with me? But be aware that where you're not the best choice and you don't tell them that, but you take them on board anyway, you're creating a rod for your own back. Drop the jargon. Don't rely on slogans. Slogans can be effective in getting somebody to stop scrolling or stop searching, but unless you can back it up with substance, they're just going to go back to scrolling. They're just going to go back to searching, because catchphrases are only effective for a short amount of time. It's funny these days, we get hit by a lot of stats, but one of the interesting stats is that when people are watching television, even if it's a streaming service, if they're watching television with adverts that are coming up every now and then, and let's say it's 9 now, and up comes an ad for a program they're going to release very shortly on the unsuspecting Australian market, and it's an American program, right? A lot of them are, and they say the #1 program in America is coming to Australia soon. Within 10 seconds, most of that audience knows they're lying through their back teeth, because what they've done whilst the ad is on is Google that program. And it was actually cancelled in America 3 weeks earlier because it bombed. Now, what do you think the credibility of that network is after something like that? Is it any wonder that people are turning away from the networks? I mean, apart from the fact that they've got crap programming, and unless it's a reality show, they don't want to feature it on anything. They're constantly telling porky pies. They're not giving us what we need, and they're trying to appeal to everybody. It's a mistake. And it's a mistake that a local business can't afford to make. A television network has got some substantial resources behind it to keep going even when people aren't really watching the programs that they're churning out. But a local business, if your local market turns off you because your jargon or your slogan hasn't lived up to their experience, you're going to be in trouble very, very quickly. And this is why the cycle of businesses going bust is accelerating. It's not accelerating because people don't want to deal with local businesses. People are screaming out to deal with local businesses, but too many local businesses are thinking that they're still in the 1990s. It just doesn't work the way that it used to. So how can we leverage this marketing paradigm? How can we take advantage of this new environment? How can we 10 times our marketing results? Well, we got to change the way that we are messaging with people. Hootsuite tells us that on any given day, people are exposed to upwards of 10,000 marketing messages per day. Think about that for a moment. 10,000 marketing messages. But when you really start thinking about it, it's not that difficult to achieve. How many ads do you see on Facebook? How many ads are you seeing when you do a Google search? How many times have you been talking with your partner or a friend or whatever about a cruise that you're going on, and all of a sudden your Facebook feed is full of cruise ads? We are being bombarded with messages designed to influence our thinking. And in that environment, how the devil do you stand out from the crowd? How do you stand out over your competitors? How do you stand out over the big boys? Well, the reality is you can't do it with frequency, but you can do it with impact. And that's what the interrupt is all about. This is the only time that a slogan is appropriate, because that's what a headline should be. But a headline doesn't need to be 1 or 2 words. A headline can be a sentence. It can be a long sentence. The thing is, the headline or the interrupt has got to relate to the market that you have identified as being your tribe. It's great when I often see, and don't get me wrong, I don't think that radio is a waste of time. I think for most local businesses, it's not relevant. If you're a restaurant, for example, or a takeaway food store, and you're advertising on radio, you're wasting a bucket load of money, because that radio station has a footprint, and the footprint is a lot bigger than your circle for getting customers from. Because let's face it, if somebody has got a retail outlet, a restaurant, a takeaway that's in the south of Brisbane, people are not going to travel to Brisbane City or the north of Brisbane to take advantage of that, because there's too many other options on the way there. But if you're advertising on radio, you're paying for all that wastage, because the radio station's rates are related to the reach and size of their market. And they'll have quite a wide reach in terms of the geography that they broadcast to. But for your headline to mean something to your tribe is one thing. But if you can't back that up immediately with what comes after, the messaging that comes after that headline, then you've just wasted a lot of brain power. And that's what the engage is all about. It has to live up to the headline. And from there, you've got the opportunity to educate them. And finally, you have some sort of call to action. That could be something as simple as a free report, provided the report is meaningful. Don't give free information that is biased to your own business. It has to be independent. It has to be genuine information that is of use to your tribe. Because by using that component approach, the headline, the engage, you educate, you make an offer. The offer isn't about a sale. Please don't make an offer that says buy now and we'll give you 10% off, 20% off, 40% off. Because you know what? At any one given point in time, less than 5% of the people that are looking at what you've got are actually in the market to buy. Over 90% of people that engage with a message are not ready to buy. But when you look at most of the ads out there, they're pitched at the 5%, not the 90%. You want to shift your marketing so that you're starting to communicate with people that are researching, but they're not ready to buy yet. They've not made up their mind yet. Because in doing that, you've got an opportunity to build a relationship that's worth more than just the lowest price. So make sure that your communications, and remember, your messaging has got to be strategic, has those components in it. What are you doing to stop people from scrolling to get their attention? What are you then doing to demonstrate that the headline is lived up to with the content that you start to communicate? Don't try and communicate everything at once. Remember, use the KISS principle. Keep it simple. When people are being bombarded with over 10,000 messages a day, the last thing they want at this point is too much information. So that initial communication has to be short, sweet, and really impactful. Because once they respond to your offer, and your offer is, hey, give us your name and email address and we'll send you this free report. Give us your name and email address and we'll send you this free calculator that shows you how you, as in a digital calculator, that shows you how you can save 3% on your home loan, or whatever the information is. But the information that you are going to give them has to relate to the solutions that you provide to the problems that they're seeking solutions for. So key considerations here. 97% of people are not ready to purchase now. I thought it was 95, but there we go. People buy from those they know, like, and trust. And trust takes time. Now, in the digital age, you've got to be able to build trust quickly. And I want to share a formula with you that will demonstrate how you can build trust in an accelerated fashion, how you can move from being a stranger to a trusted advisor quicker than anybody else. So if you've got a pen and paper, get it out, or if you've got Notepad open on your computer, bring it up, because I'm going to give you a formula. I want you to write down the letter T, followed by an equal sign, and I want you to put down the letters I plus R plus C divided by SI. This is a formula that was made popular in the 80s by a guy called David Meister in his book, The Trusted Advisor. And I bought the book because at the time I was selling services into the marketplace. Now, how do you sell services into the marketplace when your potential customers are thinking, well, he's going to try and sell me what he does because that's how he makes his money. And that's true. So I had to find a way to become a trusted advisor where they would accept what I was saying because what I was saying was true and accurate. And this formula helped me enormously. So what does that mean? Well, the T stands for trust. The I stands for intimacy. Now, we're not talking here physical intimacy, because physical intimacy with your customers isn't going to do you any good with your partners, right? So it's about how much do we know about each other? That's what we're talking about when we're talking about intimacy in business. What do we know about each other? Plus your reliability, that's what the R stands for. Do you say, or do you do what you say you're going to do? Plus your credibility, that's what the C stands for. How believable are you? Do you always tell the truth in this relationship? Divided by self-interest. Self-interest is what destroys trust in every single relationship, both business and personal. Because the moment you discover somebody is acting in their own interests, the intimacy, reliability, and credibility gets washed away because you can no longer trust them. So if you want to accelerate trust building, act in the other person's interest, not in your own. And when you think about every profession you don't trust, it's the self-interest that comes into the equation. Why do we not trust politicians? Well, one reason is because they tell us that our superannuation needs to be within certain parameters, but their superannuation is almost unlimited. We don't trust a used car salesman in the main because they just want to sell those four wheels. They're not interested in us. We know they're not interested in us. We can see the insincerity written on their foreheads. But think about the professions that we do trust. Nurses, for example, teachers, for example. They're two professions, and there's many, where you know they're not in it for the money. They're in it because they want to make a difference. Teachers want to help your kids. Nurses want to help you and your family. It's a powerful formula. And I'll just put it in the chat so that in case you've not got it, you've got it there. But trust does take time. The formula will accelerate it, and you can build trust quickly by using that formula. But it still takes time. So understand where your trust points are. Where can you really show people that you're not like every other bastard out there that's trying to get their money off them as quickly as you can? How can you demonstrate delivering a value that's in your potential client or customer's interests? This is how you're going to stand out, because your messaging is going to be different to everybody else's. It's going to be, in the Australian vernacular, fair dinkum. And that's really what you've got to be. You've got to be fair dinkum. So you really can't compete with the big guns on how visible you are. But you can compete with them in terms of impact, because you know what? People often deal with the big boys because they don't think there's any other choice. They know they can't trust the bastards. They know that they get ripped off by them. They know that their service delivery is lesser than they want it to be, but they still deal with them. Coca-Cola is everywhere. Nike is everywhere. The Amazon is everywhere. But as a local business, as a small business, you've got a tremendous advantage over the big guns because the big guns don't know their customers. This is why the big four banks, as an example, always do a lousy job of marketing, because the people that are in the boardrooms making decisions about those marketing campaigns haven't dealt with a customer in decades. They don't know their customers because they're too busy looking at the dollars and cents, the figures, the stats. Local businesses can get to know their customers. I used to frequent a seafood restaurant on the Gold Coast when I was living in Mudgeeraba back in the 90s and early 2000s. And it was called Max's Seafood at Broadbeach. Fantastic restaurant, great food. But you know, I went there and took people there for over 10 years. And I did that because the second time I went to that restaurant, the maitre d' greeted me with a smile, looked me in the eye and said, "Hi, Dennis, good to see you back here. I've only been there once before." Now, how did he do that? Well, I got to know him a fair bit over the next 6 months, 12 months. And he used his FPOS system. Because guess what? With a restaurant, do you just rock up? Mostly not. Not if you want to get a seat on a busy night. You make a reservation. They've got your details. And this guy had a particularly good memory, but he even remembered that I drank scotch. So he's making notes as he goes along. Those sorts of things really make a difference because people don't go to a restaurant because they're hungry, even though most restaurants think that's what they're in the business of. The experience is to make people feel special. And if a restaurant does that, you'll keep going back. That's what impact is about. So how can you make an impact on your potential and existing customers? Because this is how you build loyalty. We've been talking up till now about how do we attract customers? How do we build relationships? Well, a great thing starts to happen when you start to build relationships and you deliver and exceed people's expectations. You make an impact. And guess what else happens? People stop worrying about price, because when they're dealing with a business that they know is doing the right thing, that they know has their interests at heart, they're prepared to pay a little bit more. They won't pay double, but research has shown 15 to 25%, depending on the industry and the items or services that you're talking about, is a premium people are prepared to pay in the main. And this is where knowing your tribe is also important. Because if you're shooting for the lowest common denominator, they're not prepared to pay a premium for anything. Is that the sort of customer that you want? Because if that's the sort of customer you're attracting, it becomes a race to the bottom. And that's why a lot of businesses go broke, because they're too busy discounting and not busy enough learning about their customers so that they can make an impact, so that they can exceed their expectation. Because if you do that, every one of your customers is your own personal salesperson. So ask yourself, what's the best way for us to make an impact? And how can we structure our marketing to be able to communicate that? So now what? Good question. If you keep doing the same things, what's going to happen? Exactly the same as what is happening now. And clearly you're interested in growing your business. You're not interested in stagnating, because if you're staying where you are, you're actually going backwards because the rest of the world's moving ahead of you. So you've got to look at doing things differently. Now, in our business, for example, the Business and Jobs Expos, a physical business to business marketplace is what we're about. But you know what? That's not what our tribe's looking for anymore. So we're trying new things. Doesn't mean to say that we're abandoning the physical expos, but it does mean that we're trying new things. It's one of the reasons that we're having our virtual expo, 24th to 26th of July, free plug there. Because we need to do things differently. We're getting feedback from a lot of our clients, because our tribe are the little guys, micro businesses, solopreneurs, family enterprises. This is our business. They're largely the businesses that nobody else is interested in because they're seen as being small fry. We want to make a difference in that community. And that community is saying to us, look, Dennis, it's getting really hard for us to take a day out of the business for an expo, even though we know it gives us results. So we've created the virtual expos as a mechanism to overcome that, because the virtual expos take an hour to set up, and then the platform becomes your salesperson. You don't need to be online when the expo is on. You don't need to be plugged into the expo, because every time somebody visits your booth at our virtual expo, the virtual expo says, hey, guess what, Nick? You got a visitor to your booth an hour ago, or at 2 o'clock this afternoon. And then Nick can take the time when he's got the time to then reach out to those visitors. So it's a way of creating an opportunity to develop a relationship. It's a virtual expo is a way to get more people into your sales funnel. Does it work for all businesses? Nope. But we're not trying to get it to work for all businesses. We're trying to get it to work for our tribe. It's an example of how we're trying to move with the times and try and get ahead of the times so that we remain relevant to our community. You need to be thinking the same way. You need to be more strategic. You need to focus your marketing on your tribe, because you don't have oodles of money, and marketing in any form is expensive. Anybody that tells you I can show you a free way to market your business, look out, because it comes at a cost. It'll either be your time or someone else's time that you're going to have to pay for, or it'll be totally useless. It'll be like going to a party where there's no lights on and winking at all the girls, or girls winking at all the guys. You know what you're doing, but nobody else in the room does. That's the problem with low-cost, free marketing. You're often far better to pay a little more to get a better result. Because marketing, when it works, and especially when you can 10 times the result, doesn't cost you a cent. But marketing that fails costs you a lot. Accept your role, and your role is to educate your tribe to make the best possible choices in securing solutions for the problems that they want to go away. And if you can't demonstrate that you're that best choice, then you don't deserve their business, and you need to find somebody that can, so that you can recommend that somebody to those people, because you might not get their custom this time, but you will get their recommendation. Here's the thing. I live at Tamborine Mountain. And when I first moved in here in December last year, we had a tornado, and the tornado wiped out power. We need power because we've not got town water, and we've not got town sewage. So without power, we're in trouble. Now, I didn't have a generator to begin with. I only moved into the area a week before the tornado hit. we did manage to get hold of a generator after a couple of days, but in the interim, I had to disconnect our water tanks from the pump because it's the only way we could get water. We had water, but we just didn't have it coming into the house. Anyway, long story short, we get a generator, but when I reconnected the pump, it wasn't working properly. So I asked one of my neighbors, do you know a guy? Yep, gave me a number. Phoned this guy up, said, here's the problem. He said, have you tried this? Yep. Have you tried that? Yep. Have you tried that? Yep. He said, okay, where are you? I said, okay, Eagle Heights. He said, I'm just down the road. I'll come around. Now, bear in mind, this was between Christmas and New Year. He's on holiday. Well, he was till I called him. He came out, he fixed the issue. He would not take any money. I couldn't believe it. I said, mate, come on. He said, no. He said, we got to help each other in times like this. I gave him $50 anyway and told him to buy himself some beers or whatever. I've recommended that guy to 6 other people. Best advertising he could have done. He helped me in a time of need. That's the trust formula in action. There was no self-interest there. He just wanted to help me. Don't try and do this all by yourself. You've got the big advantage with the digital age. You've got access to all sorts of people here. Look at what Nick does every single week. I don't know how he does it. He's giving so much value. It's incredible. It's fabulous. I love the guy. He's my go-to guy. Anytime I need to find out something about technology, I'll say, mate, have you seen an app that does... Actually, I came across one. Let me have a look and I'll get back to you. Wow, fabulous. He's the guy I recommend to everybody. This is trust in action. This is what I've been talking about in action. It works. If you give, you will receive. People cannot help but reciprocate when you give them something they weren't expecting because they feel guilty in taking it off you. They don't like feeling guilty. So they can't wait to recommend you to somebody. So they get that monkey off their back. Reciprocity is one of the most powerful motivators for influencing people's thinking. So we've been through a lot, all focused around those 4 key factors, but please understand we live in a different world. If you try and navigate in your vehicle using a map that's out of date, you're going to get lost. Understand that everything changes, and it changes on a dime in today's world. You got to be ready to move with it. As a matter of fact, you got to be ready to move ahead of it because your customers are looking for you to lead and help them. They don't pay you because they see you as a charity case. They pay you because you can help them. And you do it in a way that they know the outcome is going to be in their best interest. Building that sort of relationship and getting people's trust takes time. But I'll tell you something, the moment one of your potential, or existing clients asks you a question that has got very little to do with what you offer, know that you're on the right track. Because when people start asking you questions that are unrelated to the nature of your relationship, know that they trust your opinion. That's the relationship that you want. I used to get into trouble when I was a sales rep. My sales manager would come out with me, and a lot of my customers would be asking me questions about all sorts of things. Dennis, what do you reckon I should do about this? We're thinking of going on a cruise. What do you reckon? I worked in the publishing industry. Nothing to do with the questions they're asking me. I had 25 minutes per call. And a good 15 of that was spent talking to them about shit that was nothing to do with what I was there to do. And my boss used to say to me, you could do another 4 calls a day if you just focused on the job. I said, I am focused on the job. These people trust me. So when I recommend that they should be buying this book over that book, they do. Trust is your most valuable resource, because once you've got that, everything else falls into place. So, any questions? Happy to take some questions. I think we've got a couple of minutes, a few minutes, Nick.
Got a couple of minutes there, and then we'll draw the prize. So yeah, any questions? There's a few comments in chat there.
Okay, let me. Oh yeah, let me just.
One of the best sessions I've been to from Mike Palmer. Full of action.
But of course, Mike.
He was also asking who was that young guy on the slide as well on the top right-hand side.
Yeah, that was my son. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate the feedback. Yeah, that night I do need to get that picture changed, I guess.
Any questions, comments? Feel free to unmute if you want your voice to be heard as well, or just drop it into chat. Love the trust formula.
Yes, Gordon. Yep. You have been around a long time, mate. People are going to comment about my youthful photos. I'm going to agree when somebody says they've been around for a long time.
Okay, what are some great ideas for marketing and a lawn mowing business with so much competition around? Good question.
Yeah, look, I think because there's so much competition around, and no pun intended, but there's also a lot of backyard operators. Yeah, I thought you'd appreciate that, Nick. Look, I think the best thing that you can do is focus on the client, right? So you think that what you're doing is mowing lawns, but you're not really. You're giving people pride in their homes, right? So that's really what it's about. People wouldn't be asking or wouldn't be paying people to mow their lawns if they didn't give a crap about the look of their property, right? So it's about the look of the property. It's about all of that sort of stuff. So ask yourself, what are some little things that you can do that your competitors don't? Because let's face it, every single person that you mow a lawn for has got at least two neighbors, and they talk to each other. Well, we hope that they do. They talk to each other about what's going on, right? So they usually talk about, oh, this guy, he'll do our lawn for $20. It's great. You want the sort of customer that says, oh, yeah, I used to have a guy like that, but the one I've got now cost me $30. But I tell you what, they always do something that I wasn't expecting them to. The other day they trimmed my rose bush for me. Just little things. You don't need to go all out. You don't need to introduce specials and all of this sort of stuff. Focus on the customers you've got right now rather than trying to look for new ones, because the customers you've got right now, if you can wow them by exceeding their expectation, spend an extra 10 minutes at the end of each job, whatever, they'll become your ambassadors, and you'll start to get business from the people that they talk to. That would be my recommendation as the big idea.
Excellent. Fabulous. Well, I think that's probably all we've got time for now. And I'm sure that there are probably lots of questions there. That question there, I think, is a really good one and probably opens the doors to a whole lot of others as we think about how that relates to our business or the little things we could do in our business. So that in mind, Dennis, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
The best way for people to get in touch with me, I'll put my bits and pieces here. So I've put my details in the chat. You can get in touch with me that way. If you lose any of that, Nick knows me, much to his chagrin at times, and he can always put you in touch.
Happy to do that. And of course, remember, Dennis has got the online expo coming up as well too. So if you do want to find out more about that, either to go along and participate or to be an exhibitor, then get in touch with him. Or if you've got a link, Dennis, you can drop that in there as well, but you can certainly just get in touch with him and he's happy to talk to you about it.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right, well, it's probably time for the door prize as well, so don't leave just yet. I know we're just a little bit over, but don't leave just yet. What's the door prize, Dennis?
The door prize is this wonderful book, If 70 is a New 50, When Do I Get to Retire? It's not just about retirement, it's about getting you unstuck. If you're in a rut that you don't like being in, but you're not quite sure how to get out of it, the book is ideal. Shows people how to get out of the misery that they find themselves in and start living the life of their dreams at any age.
Excellent. I'm reading the book. Highly recommend it. It was on our apps list today. So let's draw the lucky winner for tonight. So we'll bring up our wheel of names, and everybody's name is in there, ready to be drawn. Well, I'm hoping there's a wheel of names. All right, we're sort of waiting on that. Maybe there's a connection issue sort of over the other side of the world. All right, there we go. The wheel of names is up. All right, and it's away. So virtual drum roll on your desk in front of us. Oh, look at that. I know Paul's just left. So anybody that knows Paul, make sure you let him know that he won tonight. And we have redrawn it as well too. So let's hit that wheel again and sort of see who our lucky winner is. Oh, and would you believe it? Oh, no, I thought it was Michael. So close. But Michelle, you're still here, aren't you, Michelle? I'm just looking for her on the screen.
Yes, I'm here. I can't believe it. I looked at that and thought, oh, that looks like my name. Oh, it is my name.
Indeed it was. Yes, yes. Oh, well, congratulations. You're the lucky winner. Is this your first time winning something?
It is.
On the show?
It is.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, it is. Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. I look forward to reading it, Dennis. It'll be very
excellent. Well, I expect a 5-star review on Amazon.
Oh, without a doubt.
Excellent. That's fabulous.
So we'll connect you up with Dennis by email tomorrow, Michelle, and then you can organise the logistics of getting the book. I think he might even sign it for you as well too.
That would be lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, well, let's
get a great presentation, by the way.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle. You got to say that now, though.
Well, let's put our hands together and give Dennis a huge round of applause. Thanks very much for coming in and sharing your wisdom tonight. Really appreciate that. If you've enjoyed it tonight, or if you know someone else that you think should watch this as well, it will be up on the Smashco YouTube channel tomorrow afternoon. So if you're not a subscriber there, great time to go and subscribe. We'll drop the link into chat. And when you do subscribe, if you hit that little bell, then you'll get a notification as soon as it's been uploaded. So feel free to share it. Feel free to send people there. Feel free to watch it again as well. And of course, we will be back here next week. Now, I was going to say too, we're looking for some additional speakers. We've got a few slots to fill in, when is that, next month and the month after. So if you think there's someone there that would be good to have on the show, they're an expert in some area in business and digital, then let me know, and I can be in touch with them, or maybe just introduce me to them as well too. Now, there's a couple of people here that have introduced me to some good people in the past. We'll happen to be looking at Paul Kennedy on the screen, who's been a great person for introducing me to people as well too. And And that always helps to get the word out and bring some new talent in here as well. Well, that's our show here tonight. So again, thank you, Dennis. Thanks everyone for coming along tonight, and look forward to seeing you same time, same place next week. Have a good night. Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Business Owners Smashing It Online podcast. You can also find me on social media and online. Just search for Business Owners Smashing It Online and Nick Cree, spelled Nikcree, all one word. If you like this and want to hear more, subscribe now. Until next time, don't be a slave to your business. Get your business working for you.